Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with Derek and Craig. We're going to do a little show on how to hunt a site, or something along those lines. Craig, I don't know. We were just talking about it before the show a little bit. Um, a lot of us, hit different kinds of sites, whether it's your house site or a field, or it really comes down to how much activity you have. The way I figure it, and I put a couple of videos up with the simplex, and I have more to put up. I was telling Craig it's taking so long to upload for some reason. I don't know whether I'm uploading at the wrong time of day or whatever, but just an 11-minute video is taking me it seems like an hour and a half. And my upload speeds are not too bad, but not too different from anybody else's. But yeah, I think it's the time of day I'm doing it. But some of these sites you get into, like the one I'm at right now over at that Legend Oak property, there's so much history there and so much stuff in the ground. It's not, well, it is kind of trashy, Craig, as you heard, but there's so many signals in there. And the way I've always done sites like that have, more than 100 years of history on them is taking them off by layers. You got, I'm dealing with like big cast iron pieces and big brass. It's never been hunted before. It absolutely hasn't. I mean, I'm just digging stuff like an inch down in the ground sometimes when I first started hitting it. And you almost have to layer stuff off. You're not going to find everything in one day. It's not going to happen. I've had other plantation properties I've done the same way, where I've hunted them over years and still can go in there and find coins and jewelry and stuff, but you got to layer it off of there. And that's kind of what I was doing in those videos with the simplex. That machine's really kind of just really surprised me, Craig, with the nuance in the tones. And you mentioned it before the show. It almost is like it takes a tone and it's actually throwing other tones in with it. And but the one thing that was consistent with that machine, as I was digging what I would consider good stuff, I didn't dig very much junk at all. I mean, everything was like a cast iron piece or a pocket watch piece or something we would consider desirable as relic hunters. If anything else, to date a site and find out what era you're dealing with. Because I know I dug some 1920 stuff, and then the first signal right off the bat was that it's a Victorian 18. Well, I think Craig, you said the same thing. It's 1880s to early 1900s of a Victorian dress adornment button, which I had never dug one before. It's actually, I collapsed the back of it trying to. I think I mentioned it at the last show. Just barely touched it with that toothbrush, and it just disintegrated. But I didn't really set that thing up. I screwed up and didn't bring my container with the cotton in it. I grabbed the wrong one, so it was kind of like one of those things. I probably should have just taken it to the car because I put it in that container right there. It was fine through there, but when I got it home, after it set in the air for a little while, it just got so unbelievably brittle. And I just touched it with that toothbrush and it collapsed in the back. But the front is really heavy. It's like a quality button. Something that, it showed that obviously there was people there with money, because I'm sure those dresses and buttons weren't cheap back then.
That's an unusual button. I've never seen one like that before. It's got a lot of detail on it. It definitely.
I stopped cleaning it actually with the photo you saw, Craig. I haven't even touched it with a brush or nothing. I'm just kind of letting it sit, and it's one of those. I think it's going to be one of those relics. Less cleaning is better.
We've talked about that before, about how sometimes it's a judgment call on whether to clean it or not, or how much. A lot of this stuff is not going to clean up right. It's
right.
I've even seen, we've even done things like put dirt back on like put some oil around the high points and then sprinkle dirt on it.
Yeah.
And it actually brings out the detail sometimes. A lot of crusty buttons, from the Civil War. We kind of did that too. And, cleaning is, kind of an art form that you kind of learn, by trial and error when you first start, and we didn't have any information. I just we used a lot of ammonia and lemon juice and stuff
Oh
like
God,
that
yeah,
in the old
really
days.
heard it. Yeah, heard everything. Or good.
Now, nowadays, I take like a soft, I got a couple different uh, hardness of brush, but toothbrushes, and I'll take like a real soft one at first and just kind of go over it and see what it looks like, and brush it very softly and see, how much dirt's coming off, and then you might want to, go with a different, I do it dry. Sometimes water will mess up a button when it's old. It'll discolor the brass, make it kind of funny looking. If you use ammonia or lemon juice, it'll make the button look red. The brass and
It's almost like acid. Yeah, the acid in it.
So, the only time you want to use lemon juice is maybe dip it in a brush, and if you have gold on the button and you see the gold, but it's not, it's not coming through, you can just brush it like maybe 2 or 3 brushes and, hit it with water real quick. And a lot of times that gold will just pop, it'll just be gleaming. I've had, Civil War buttons that, from the 1860s or even 1850s that, they come out, they look like they're brand new almost in the front if they have the gold gilding on them. Some of them even have, extra gold gilding that like they're dipped or something.
I think this one was gold, gold on it. I just can't. I'm seeing like really, really small little specks of. It looks like gold. I think it was, plated gold at one time. That button was. But I'm afraid to brush it too much. I mean, Gavin's on here. He says, "So what? Wire wheel is not the best." And I was like laughing. No, you don't want to use a wire wheel. That's not going to work. You don't want to tear it up. And they do have, and Craig, and I haven't really watched the rest of the series or before this, but the Oak Island series. There's actually. They have a guy, I can't remember his name now. He's a legend in the hobby, I guess, but or expert detectors. He's using a CTX 3030. Finally, I'm seeing some decent machines on there.
That's Gary Drayton.
Yeah, but he was out there detecting, and he's found what I would consider really date the site. I mean, the last one I saw, found this ship spike or something. No, it was a stonemason's spike. Or chisel, whatever, and I was wondering, the one that you found, Craig. I don't know if you've been watching the series or not, but you found that spike-looking thing in your yard, and it had that shape to it, kind of that shape. I don't know. You need to watch. I don't know if you've watched it or not.
I don't watch. I don't watch Oak Island. I got burned out on it years ago.
This season, I did too, Craig, believe it or not. But I was watching it, and I was kind of enjoying, what he was finding with the metal detector. A little bit more what I consider, I don't know. Well, he found a bunch of stuff. This last one I saw, he had a whole table full of stuff, and they're dating some of the stuff to the 14th century, 1400s. I mean. So that was pretty good from my standpoint to see that, hey, there's other stuff. There had to be people there. If there was something built there, there had to be people there. They dropped stuff. They camped there, obviously lived there or whatever. You're going to find stuff. I've also thought that that if there is treasure there buried in a room or whatever hidden chamber, I would think that they would want to have some of that treasure easy access to get it if they needed it quick. You know what I mean? There are people there, so there may be stuff buried all around that island. I don't know if how much they've detected it, if they, little treasures here and there that they can grab and go instead of trying to get into that big vault. I mean, it makes sense to me, but I don't know what they were thinking.
I had a friend, Mike Shoemaker, that I went to high school with, and he worked for, he was editor, I think, or investigator for Strange Magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually went to Oak Island, and I remember him telling me about it years ago. And he said that there was quite a few people that were killed that died, trying to find that treasure. And,
I think 6 or 5 or 6, something like that.
Yeah, so he said who knows what's there. He said, it's the thing with treasure is you never know if it's just a rumor or, what, actually happened on some of these things, and
well, I've heard people, that, like Blackbeard,
they want to believe that it's there, even though it might not be. That's just kind of how this stuff happens, and people get like gold or treasure fever.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Well, the truth is that
I've seen on, just what I've seen on this, on this, Oak Island thing. It's just been going on for over 100 years, maybe even 150 years. I don't know, but it's just who knows if they'll ever get to it or not. It's fairly intriguing, but I just got burned out on it was like they were kind of milking it along, and some people think it'll be going on 100 years from now after everybody's dead. There'll be another group that's still carried it on or something that's still going to say, well, this is the year we'll find it, but who knows?
Well, the guys are finding stuff. He's finding stuff with the metal detector. That's giving him a date. That's giving him something. Okay, why was this here? Why were the stonemasons here? Why was they found these? And I can't remember what they called them yesterday, but I watched it last night and recorded the show, and I want to call them mallets or whatever. They look like hammers. You were sticking them. I think they were used for. I can't remember what they said they were used for. But it looked like hammers, sledgehammers. I'm going to say, but that's not what they are. But they dated them to the 1400s, or they could be as old as 1400s. The way they looked, and even the guy, that found them, he said these look old. These are the oldest ones I've ever seen. And the guy's been in the hobby forever. But finding this stuff and finding the area of the most activity, whoever built this, whatever people built this, had to have lived there. I mean, it's not something they built overnight and left. I mean, this took a long time, I would think. All these little cavern and waterways and everything else in there. So yeah, I mean, put the detector. I'd love to detect it. I mean, just hell, you can have everything. I just want to see what I find and everything. That'd be a blessing. I mean, most of you guys would do the same thing, but it brings you a lot of information to light and who you're dealing with, what whether it was Spanish or English or whatever. You get an idea of who was doing all this. Because I know a lot of the pirate treasures, the stories of, some of these pirates would bury, a large amount of money somewhere, and anybody that was with them, helping them, they didn't want anybody knowing where it was. They'd off them and throw them in the pile with it and bury it over. Yeah. I mean, you heard a lot of stories like that. So, you start finding bodies, you're getting close. I mean, it's a morbid kind of thing, but, that's what they did back then. Gavin actually has been on here. He had a couple questions. He said, you wanted to know with the simplex, have you found that if you swing the coil quicker over a target, the simplex gives a louder signal than if you swing it slowly over a target? The only thing I could tell you about that, Gavin, and that's the reason I posted up the videos the way I did with the simplex, just trying it out kind of thing, is that it's repeatable. Whether I go slow, when I went faster over a target, it's kind of like the ballista. It locks on, and you get a little bit more information. And if we go over it slowly, I kind of did it both ways. And I do that on most targets, and I finally just have enough and say, let's dig it, just get it out of there. After I got all the information I can, what I've noticed with it is when it really knows what something is, even though the sound might be a little bit different, it'll, how do I want to put this, Craig? It's hard to explain nuance. Gosh, allergies. It locks onto it, but
it's kind of like a tone within the tone,
right?
Like a tone or some kind of variation of the main tone. I can hear nuances great because I'm an ear person. I'm not an eye person. I don't have a mind's eye. I have I can hear, that's how I think I'm better at metal detecting, because I can hear stuff in the sound that other people tell me they don't hear.
Right.
But I've had people tell me that they hear the same thing I hear, but not as many people seem to be auditory as they are visual. I think 65% of people are visual, and some people are a combination of audio and visual, and then there's people like me that are, less people are audio, totally audio.
Well, I know that it has something to do with the size of these targets I'm digging too with this machine and how deep they are because of the way. I think it was the first video I put out. I thought it was two separate targets that were very close together, and I think it was the size of the target and what it was. It was one of those screw caps, aluminum screw cap kind of things, and that's why it was giving me. It's like on one edge of it, it's a pretty big. It's bigger than a silver dollar, but I was getting either edge of it. But it was also, I even said it wasn't the best sound in the world, but it was so modulated, I had to dig it. I had to get it out of there because it's masking up stuff, I'm sure. And once I dug it out, then I got that pocket watch thing in that clump of grass. That's another thing with this Simplex. I was beating this thing through the grass, through the sticks that were out there in the pasture bank. You'll see it in the future video here, part 3, where I'm going through this stubble, like it would be like compared to like soybean stubble. And sometimes when those are a little bit tougher and you bang into them, sometimes your detector would go off and stuff. Falsing. There's no problem with that with this detector. They fixed whatever problem it was that the UK guys were talking about. Because there was moisture and everything out there. I didn't have any problem with that. Matter of fact, it was better than the Bliss tool as far as that goes. I mean, banging into stuff, and I could scrub that brush and force that coil down into the grass pretty good, and because it had like 6-7 inch grass clumps growing. It's really a crappy field, to be honest with you. John hasn't messed with that field in 25 years, and some of the grass is like a St. Augustine, really thick, tough grass. I mean, pretty, but then you have these clumps where nothing, the cows haven't eaten it. It needs to be disked is what it needs to be done. But then he has Sumter County limestone rock everywhere. So me digging the holes, and you guys see I'm just flipping the dirt back in, stomping it. As long as I fill the holes, and that's all he cared about. Because I'm probably doing more good than harm because it's breaking up. That ground, I didn't realize, down here, if cows have been on it for a long time, which it has at this place, they've packed that ground so tight that I'm putting a shovel in there and it's essentially sand, but you can see the shovel flexing when I pop these plugs out. It's not an easy dig compared to an area that really hasn't had cattle and stuff on it. A lot of cow pies, a lot of stuff like that. But I'm just swinging this detector through everything, and when it goes over something good, the VDI numbers are very close together. I saw one of the UK guys put up on the Nocta site that this coin chart, what the farthing reads up at. What I found out is with this machine, I would say if it sounds good, dig it, because if you have anything near it, like nails or whatever, it's going to throw that VDI number off a little bit. It would do it with any metal detector, but with this one, it's just like that sound. What's that?
What is the range of numbers on the screen?
It goes up to 90 or 100. And I'm getting pennies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I started digging the low.
It's kind of funny because the pennies are in the 60s, aren't they?
Yeah, it's the one penny I dug when I was out for like 20 minutes with the machine. It was at 65, locked on. It was a Lincoln penny at 65. It just stayed right on it, and it was like 4 inches deep. But then dug.
Was it a copper one?
Yeah, it's a copper, 1971. So it was copper. But what I noticed was that the button I dug it said 63, 65, 68. It was staying in the 60s, and that's all brass or copper too. But shotgun shells, they ring up in the 50s, which, you're talking about and that's why we're so, we talk about these VDI numbers a lot. Buttons, US, any kind of button will ring up. It could ring up at 40. It could ring up at 70. If you notch out these numbers, you're going to miss good targets. And that's why I think I was hunting in field. Now, when I go back there, I'm going to hunt in park because I believe that there is a tone change. I think park is four different tones and field is 3. And they may be different kinds of tones too. there's a lot of information with this machine, and it's fun to use. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I didn't think I was going to like it that much, Craig. I figured, okay, here we go again. Another, I wasted money because of the level that I'm at, the machines that I'm normally using. Going back in a price range like that, I'm thinking, I may have made a mistake with this detector, but I'm going to try it anyway. But I'm glad I did. I think any one of you guys would like this machine. And I have no dog in the hunt. I don't sell them or nothing like that. But it was a very informative machine for the price range.
I see this machine taking over the kids market.
Oh, absolutely. I'd buy this for a kid in a heartbeat.
It looks like a kid, a machine a kid would be proud to use instead of like an H250 or a 150 or something like that, which, a lot of the parents, want to, give the kid, a cheaper machine. But, I think, and I heard this on a couple guys were saying that they bought this machine and they were going to let their kid use it, but they were going to use it first.
Oh, yeah.
Then they're going, wow, this is almost too good for my kid, or something like that.
It's a great machine to learn on, for a new person, anybody, because it gives you a definite to tune your ears in to what a machine does. This was very hard 10, 12 years ago, even with analog machines like the Bliss tool. You could pick out the nuance, and it has very definite differences between brass and silver and stuff like that. This machine, boy, I had to really, that's weird, or that sounds different, and really go over it. And Gavin's saying on here that he saw a video with a guy that when he sped up the coil speed, he started missing the target, and he thought that was a little bit weird. It's not really out of the realm, Gavin, because if you're dealing with a mixed tone where we'll say you have a quarter at 5 inches, and then you have a square nail that's like maybe three inches away, and you're swinging the coil over, it may mix that tone up a lot, or you may even lose it. I lost that button one time. I think I mentioned it on the video where I'm not getting any VDI at all. So it was getting, the way I was swinging it or whatever, it let go, but it was still giving a repeatable signal. And then all of a sudden I said, it came back. So I don't know exactly what I'm dealing with just yet on this machine, but I'm liking what I'm seeing, because every target I dug, nearly every target was what I would consider a relic hunter's find. Whether it's a piece of cast iron, and I had several, I haven't shown a lot of this video yet. I found parts of plow blades. I found an old kind of big, maybe a machete, something like that, but it's definitely old. I found different pocket watch parts, but everything was pretty good. I don't think I only dug 2 cans, Craig. And mason jar lids, my God, I was hitting those things sometimes 15, 16 inches down in the ground. I was scooping the crap out of them. Just trying to dig them up, which I didn't expect from this detector. I figured, okay, if we can get a penny at 6, 7 inches, with the technology that it has and the sound, it's a pretty good metal detector. But I'm digging, that I said 8 inches, but it was probably every bit of 10 inches, because it was right at the tip of the plug, the third scoop I took. And some of the pocket watch part, and I have some other stuff too in there that's smaller. These little flakes of the lid, reading up, and they were reading up as a 20. I'm starting to learn. Anything with this machine that you dig that's above 10, I'd investigate it. Now this is going to get really busy in a park setting, and you may have to go to park. I don't know what they'll read up on that. That's why I said I need to turn it on that, go over the same area, and unlayer this site, because there's just so much stuff in there. I wait until I get a repeatable signal. I'll look at the VDI. Some of them were 4, and I said this is probably cast iron, and I was right, but it was locking on. But I did find out that cast iron can go up even higher, up into the 50s. It'll jump between. It does a lot of jumping. But I don't know, Craig, the way they make the cast iron, isn't that just a mixed match of iron that they threw together and poured?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. There may be copper in it. There may be, essentially like pig iron. But this stuff is scattered. I don't even know how many wood burner pieces I found, and they're from different styles. I almost think I have the barn site, like where they store stuff, the stable or something like that, because it just doesn't seem like it's. I haven't found any coins yet, but I know they're there. There was a lot of signals. If you watch the video, where I'm getting these little pops here and there, those are signals in the ground, but they're just so they're whisper tones, and I just didn't want to. This initial hunt, I didn't want to sit there and single in on those that much. I wanted to get the bigger stuff, the easier stuff off the site, so that I open up so I can get to the coins. I think they're deep. I'm digging shotgun shells at 10, 11, 12 inches down with this machine, and if a shotgun shell's going that deep, the old paper rounds, then a penny could probably go deeper. I would think. And I think this machine can hit them. I had the sensitivity at half, Craig. I didn't ground balance the machine. I didn't, other than changing into field. That's the only adjustment I made. I just use auto ground balance wherever the settings were that they have preset in there. The only thing I changed, and I don't think I even changed, I think it was at 3/4 on sensitivity. I knocked it down to half. You couldn't see the screen, but I think I said it. And I moved the volume up to full so that, we could hear it through the video. But when you have a shallow target, it screeches on that baby. But the VDI number stays locked in. It doesn't just throw a 99 or how it used to do. Now, cans will mess with it. Like the old, like a crushed up can in the ground. But it does that on every metal detector I've ever owned, except for the Bliss. I mean, I can hit that button into toggle one and get rid of that can. But I want to know what's there, because if it's something that big, and pinpointing with this thing, man, it's dead on. It's right where that detector shaft connects into the coil. It's right there. And the pinpoint on it, and I wish I could, I need to really try to figure out if I could show this stuff. That screen they have on there, it does not like cameras. I mean, it's really hard to get a good visual on the screen with the camcorder so you guys can see what I'm seeing with the VDI numbers. Especially the way I have it set up with a chest mount camera. But it was... when you pinpoint with it, it has this bullseye thing on it, and it's really.
You kind of want to put it in the shadow more.
Yeah, yeah.
I've had the same thing where if you've got it, the screen is hitting, the sun's hitting it direct. It definitely kind of whites out the screen. It's
just really hard to see, but it has a depth gauge. You pinpoint with it. I haven't figured out. I don't really pinpoint a lot of targets. I just do the X thing over the target. And wherever the sound is the best, that's why I've always done it. And it's right, but when you pinpoint with it, obviously it gives you a depth. It has this line thing, like, I can't remember if it's a lot of lines that's really deep or not so many lines that's shallow. I haven't even worried about that, but it has this bullseye thing. It's pretty much to tell you where you are dead on locked. Like circles, like a really, like a pin-sized dot, and then a little bit bigger circle, a little bit, like a target would be. But as you get right over it, and when you're zeroed right in, you have this little bitty dot right in the middle. But what I found out is as items are deeper, the rings expand. It's strange. I mean, I have to probably show it more than try to explain it over the radio. But it's another way of analyzing what you're digging, and that's why I was going over stuff. I wanted to hear it, but I wanted you guys to hear it too. What it's doing, what it's sounding like, and it has like a grinding sound, a squeal sound. It's all these little nuances in this, and I found that everything that locked on, that stayed locked, was something that a relic hunter would want to ID a site or whatever.
It's got this real fast, zippy sound.
And it gets
especially on those real deep signals.
Yeah.
It's got the but you can it's definitely locking on to the signal, even though it's a small signal, but it's different. It's a totally different sound.
I like it. It's just it has like a cheese grater sound where it's like a grinding. I don't know. It's just. But it was informing me. Hey, and when you went over something good, I don't. When I was just sitting there swinging. And beep, it just throws that beep out, and it's modulated so much above all the iron sound. And I haven't messed with the iron. You can hear the iron in there. I haven't messed with the volume at all. But apparently with this machine, if you turn down the iron volume it actually increases your depth and your sound for good targets. So Mind you, I'm using presets. I want to get my ear wrapped around it, but I love the idea that I can swing through, and it's just like the Bliss. When you even get near something, the modulation level just pops, and even if it's a junk like iron signal, it pops through there like cast iron. But like nails and stuff, I only dug. I don't think I dug any nails with it. I think I dug. Now I can't remember. Maybe a couple horseshoe nails. Like for putting horseshoes on. But they were in with targets, and that was another thing. When I dug that I think it was the button I dug, where I was going over it. So I got it there, and you heard me go over that plug, and you heard an iron tone in there. So that had a nail in it. I should have dug that too and showed you guys, but there's other mixed iron and mixed metals in these holes. I mean, this is a junky site. This is not, and I probably should have been using Park, but I don't mind, Craig. I mean, that's one thing I want to do. And I work my way around, I meander here and there.
One thing you might try is, when you get a signal, and just try the different modes to listen to it.
Yeah.
I hear people do that, with the Equinox. They'll check it in different modes to see if it, because some modes will pick up, iron a little, it's sounding better.
Right.
And if you're in another mode, it kind of knocks it out completely. Sometimes I'll check the signal in different frequencies because I can hit this little button on the left and I can move the frequency from, 5 to 10 to 15 to multi, 20, 40, and then multi. So,
yeah, I could do that with this machine as far as tone, or not tone, but frequency. I haven't messed with any of that. I just wanted to come at this as like a man or woman buys it for themselves or for a kid to use. Pull it out of the box, charge it up, turn it on, and go. I haven't even done the update yet, Craig. I just wanted to see what this machine would do right out of the box. It is a very good machine. Turn on and go. What I would consider turn on and go. I didn't have to adjust ground balance or anything like that. As an auto ground balance, I guess, is what the preset is. Really, the update, I don't know if I'll do it eventually here, but I mean, all it was is to lock in your settings. And I've never seen a real need to do that with most detectors because it's, once you have, you figure out where your ground balance is and where you like to run the sensitivity. Maybe frequency you need to adjust once in a while depending on EMI and stuff like that. That's about all you adjust anyway, so it didn't really make a difference to me right off the bat. I may do the update, but I don't like the idea of having to turn off your antivirus. I don't understand that whole deal. That kind of paranoids me. That. Yeah, but only because there's so many idiots out there that like to throw junk out there. But I don't know if
I've never heard of somebody saying that you got to do that. I mean, why? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I'm going to do it with Pauline has an Alienware computer, and I'm just going to do it straight up. If it wants me to turn off the antivirus, I'm not going to do it right off the bat. I think with her Alien, it's got we have a pretty heavy security, whatever, Norton and all that other stuff on there. I don't see where it would be a problem. I'm going to try it and see, and I'll let you guys know, and whether you do or not. But I mean, it's not a reason not to buy the machine. I mean, the machine out of the box is pretty good. I think I have the 0.67 version. And I think I can't remember, it's 0.69, I don't know, whatever the version is that they want you to update to. But, I really wanted to talk about the sites themselves, Craig. I mean, we never really, it's already 7:34, but, every site you're going to work is going to be different. You may not be dealing with so much iron and stuff where you can just kind of go through, like a house site that somebody's, your backyard, perfect example. You can kind of be more selective about it, take your time, and work it. I've just found with plantation sites, it just helps to get the big stuff the heck up out of the way. That way what you're going to open it up for more signals, number one, because some of these pieces I'm digging out were masking the heck out of stuff. You get a 1 foot or 2 foot long piece of cast iron that's 8 inches wide. I mean, it pretty much taking everything 5 or 6 inches away from it all the way around it, there could be good targets there, and you're missing them totally because the detector just can't discern them because of such a big piece of iron being in the way, or aluminum. Or I was digging these grill things, Craig, and I found out he pulled a older grill, probably 1980s, but it has these stainless steel rods with steel through the center of them. They're the grates off the barbecue oil. He was pulling it. It was a piece of junk, really, but it broke all the tines out. All these parts went everywhere. So I'm digging modern stuff, these rods out of the ground. I couldn't figure out what the heck they were, but that's what they were for an old barbecuer. And like when they tore down the barn. I mean, a lot of times down here they just knock them over, burn them, whatever, or dismantle them if they could use them. It did it up in Ohio. I mean, I guess everybody does it the same way. Tim Glick, when I hunted with him, he had one where the house fell over, or they burned it and they tried to push it into a pile, so they pushed all these nails, and everything was just so bad with nails that I think the Indian heads he got were like maybe an inch down in the ground, and it was just covered with iron around them. So, the way you attack a site, and you'll learn this as you go through the newer people out there. But like when we were hunting at CWPPO, when we were up there with Bill Marsh, that house site, that wasn't so bad. He had a lot of mixed stuff in there. But like you got towards the garden and stuff, that's where you dug that Barber half. Or no, it wasn't. It was
seeded half.
Seeded half. And then, Rusty got that
King George second.
Yeah. It was mixed up a little bit. Then, Bill gets out there in the pasture where they had another found, and he's finding reals, and it just, every site's going to be a little bit different. Just take your time, and when in doubt, dig the best signals, the loudest signals, just to get them out of the way. And you might be surprised yourself. It depends on which detector you're using and stuff, but, get them out of the way, and you're going to find some cool stuff. I found a couple handles, like for a chest, cast iron. I found a couple ornate pieces that were like for say a cast iron pitcher, like the handle off of one. This is all stuff. I'm just going to throw the videos up as is. This is what I found. This is how I did it. I'm not using a full, like, a methodical swing. I'm overlapping a little bit, but I'm not being very methodical. I'm just trying to find stuff and get it out of the way so that I can come in there and really do surgical and zero in on some of these smaller little targets to see how deep they are, because I think they're coins or something. I really do. Because you have an iron tone, but you have those higher pitched little tweaks in there when you go over another spot, and they're very quiet. That just tells me they're deep. So with headphones, I'm going to do better too. And I was surprised with that button, because you see me, I'm just swinging along, and it's not really like a real loud signal, but it was so different from the other stuff I was hearing. It's like, oh, wait a minute, what is that? And I did that a lot that day. It's like, oh, wait a minute, there's something, It just made it kind of nice. It was a fun experience with it. But I'll be digging on that site for, God, years. That site is loaded, and it just has so much stuff. There was stuff, Craig, I don't know if I got it in the video. I actually ran out of camcorder battery. I was telling Craig, I don't use a GoPro out there. I use a Muvi, M-U-V-I. It's a different kind of camcorder. They sell them they used to be $100. Now they're like $200 or $300. But you could put a mini SD card in this thing and record for like an hour and a half. So I can kind of leave the thing on, and it has good enough quality. It's not as good as a GoPro as far as quality goes, as far as picture quality, but it seems to do a good enough job sound-wise and everything. Now, maybe the newer ones do, but it was smaller. It's half the size of my cell phone. It's pretty thin. It's maybe a half an inch thick, but I use it on a chest mount. I just turn the thing on and go. I figure, well, if you guys want to see what this thing will do, what it sounds like, here you go. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and explain it to you. I'm just going to do it. And I was kind of laughing at myself. I watched it to make, when I was editing it, and it's enough listening. Let's just dig it up. You only can analyze a target so much before you just got to dig it. So,
well, yeah, you want to. Yeah, you've been in a kind of you haven't had much luck lately, so you need to be finding some more stuff.
Oh, I'm telling you.
It's kind of nice to have a site like that where,
I'm
it looks
used
like
to.
it's never been dug, you know. So
I can't imagine anybody
what you
digging
can
that
find.
site. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine anybody have ever. I know that John's owned the property for 20. It's either 25 or 28 years. He's never let anybody metal detect. Never even thought about letting anybody metal detect it. And before that, it was owned by a family, and he actually knows one of the kids or grandkids where he bought the property from. He's actually going to go over and talk to him and say, "Hey, do you remember where the house was, or do you have any pictures of this old house?" Because we don't know where it is. I think I found the barn site, and I'm going around, and it's just so. I mean, there's so much stuff there. I just don't want to walk away from it. I want to find something, but it may be on the adjacent property because it's where the legend oak is. I'm hunting the east side of it, but there's a fence right there, and that goes onto the other guy's property. And there's like 65 acres there. The house could have been right on the other side of the fence right there. They wouldn't put the barn right next to the house. They'd have it away from it a little bit. But they have the old cattle stalls and everything over there.
Have you ever looked at Google Earth down on the property?
Actually, I haven't. Like Craig, I just kind of went out there and did it. I know that
you might see something that would show
impressions.
Where the house was or something.
Yeah.
I'm on some idea that way.
Yeah, I'm on site overload right now. There's so much stuff to look at. As far as site reading it, where the cattle pens were, and that's probably where they've always been. The old Sumter County rock where it's been pulled out of the field and stacked up around the trees. And I got some other trees on that property that are about half the size of that legend oak. It's 29 foot around. These are probably, like 16, 17 foot around. These other trees that are not, they've been there. There's some palm trees. These weird kind of palm trees that are, God, I mean, you can barely fit your arms around them. They're huge. I mean, and they've been there for many, many, many years, and that's why I wanted to. He's going to get with the owner of the property next door. Maybe I'll get another permission over there. We're talking. I mean, John has 40 acres. The other guy has 65, and then it goes on. But at the very back of his property, I haven't even looked at it yet. He goes, that's where the old cattle trail was in the early 1800s, where they go in towards the stock auction is right there in Webster, Florida. It runs right there. So these people, whoever had this plantation, was cattlemen. They weren't growers, I don't think. They didn't grow crops, or they may have, I don't know. But I mean, it's primarily a cattle area. That cattle market's been there for, oh God, Pauline's great whatever grandfather it was a cattleman, and he and a gambler and a cattleman and everything else, and pretty well documented. He owned most of the county on this where we're living at now. He owned everything on this side, and he'd run cattle. And they had cattle rustlers, and it was like the Wild West down here. I mean, Florida's changed so much from even in recent times. I mean, I looked at 9 of the places I used to metal detect are gone. They've literally leveled them, made parking lots out of them, built parking garages on them, housing developments. I mean, they're just gone. But the history I was digging there was pretty far back. I mean, most of the history I dig, I think it was 1850s is when 1859 is when Bushnell was established. I'm assuming because it had a post office and everything else. But I found a lot of stuff from way before that. Like Instachat, a lot of this area, Central Florida is like that. Even where the Orange Belt Railway ran right in front of the property I'm doing now with the Legend Oak, and the old train station. What's left of it, the old foundation of it, is there because it burned down in the early 1900s. The Orange Belt ran right through town. They actually detected that and found. Me and Tony did that and found hundreds of railway seals and padlocks and coins, and it's only a stretch, maybe a city block long and about maybe 40 foot wide. And we find bullets and God, Craig, it's all hard to dig stuff because it used to be a railway bed. So you can imagine you dig down like 3 inches and you're hitting gravel. So. Yeah. We dug all those lead seals that have all the the town names and stuff on them. And I think it was like 150 or 200 of those right there. And then that wasn't even in front of the train station, which we can't. We've tried to hunt it, but there's so much melted copper and brass and aluminum and iron, and it just all this because it burned to the ground. It just so whatever was up there, it's all scattered all over that property, and it's just big pieces. I mean, what are you going to do? You can't really metal detect it, or you can kind of go in between it, but it's just so many signals that it's almost aggravating to try to even put a detector in there. So, we were forced to go either side of it. But yeah, that old Orange Belt Railway ran right down that road in front of John's house and went on to Center Hill, which was one of the produce. They were like the pepper capital of the world at one time, and bean capital, and they extended Jumper Creek out. The Army Corps of Engineers did, and it pretty much drained that area. It was flood control is what it was, so they could start bringing more people down to live there. But it hurt the crops so bad, the farmers so bad, they couldn't grow the crops that they used to, and it just kind of killed the town. I mean, it's still there and everything. It's just produce wise, crop wise, it was done. And I think that's one of the reasons they cattle came back so much. There's a lot of people that do cattle down here. People don't think of Florida as being a cattle. It used to be like number one or number two cattle producing state, and it pretty much is. There are a lot of calves here, and they bring them to Texas, and they'll bring hay back. That's another thing they grow too, is the Tifton hay and the alfalfa hays. A lot of people around here grow them. So you have a lot of these sites that you can't even tell a house was there. It could have been there 100 years ago. You'd never know it because they've done just the ground and everything else. So Google Earth that you mentioned earlier, Craig, I use that a lot usually. I'll have to pull that site up. I'll get some aerial photos or whatever. We'll see what it kind of looks like. Maybe I'll find an indentation in the ground or a discoloration in that field where I could tell maybe where a house was. Well,
if you get back 50 or 60 years, you might see something,
True.
Yeah, it's worth a shot. There might be, I don't know if there's any maps from way back of that area. They might show like a little dot or something for where the house was.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Survey maps, yeah. Or what do you call it? Yeah, survey maps is what it amounts to. I haven't done that side of the county. Well, it's in a different town. I've done my town and my area pretty much in detail. Did you see any kind of
driveways or anything in there?
It has a main driveway that comes down through a fence line, probably about 10 acres. And then you have a field on one side, field on the other. And I think that's where they used to cross over cattle and stuff. The old stockyard, or the stock where they, oh my God, my vocabulary is limited this morning. Where they bring the stock in to load them into trucks and stuff. That's there, and then they have a lot of Sumter County rock lined up along a fence line. I think it's just got it out of the field. It does show, I guess, on the back of the property. I haven't seen it myself, but there's a cattle trail, the original cattle trail that went through there. That people would bring their cattle into market on that trail down there. So I'm sure I'll see this on the map. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I just haven't seen a need to yet, time wise.
Well, that's such a big property.
Yeah.
You need some help on finding where the hot spots are, maybe.
Oh yeah. I just kind of got into this first one around the oak when I dug the stirrup. I'm digging good stuff, so I'm going to stay there, obviously. But I want to find out where the actual house site was. I haven't seen anything that looks like a privy, but I have found some of the bottles and stuff. Where the bottles would have been.
Another thing you might find a trail of metal leading to the house from that oak tree.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, because there's a house there. It comes up on the video a couple of times. That's not the original house. I mean, he had one built, but there's from that oak tree down to where you saw the water trough, and then the house. That's kind of like a path, right? It's loaded with stuff through there, and I'm picking it out pretty good. There's a lot of signals I didn't dig, further along in the video. Said, I'm looking for pronounced, definite signals, whether they are high or low, just to get them out of the way, because I know that I dug a pocket watch cover there, and I dug this thing. It's the size of a pocket watch, Craig, but it's real long. It's all brass. It's got gears in it, like it's an alarm clock, maybe. But it's like really like 3 or 4 inches long, depth wise, and they have these big pins. It has to be some kind of a clock or something. I have it out there. I probably have 25 pounds of cast iron pieces. Like I said, the blade, hammerhead, hinges, and cast iron other pieces and stove pieces, and then a lot of little stuff. Couple cans, but most of it is all pre 1920s, anyways. Probably back into the obviously early 1800s. So I have a big mix of items to deal with. But I'll get a photo of those. I have them sitting out there on the patio right now. I didn't even worry about bringing them inside because they're really just mostly all cast iron and nothing worth anything. But it's good sight reading, dating a site type thing. I want to take some of that cast iron plow blades. A lot of them had dates on them and names. At least up north they did. I've dug a couple of those at the DIPA or the digging in Virginia. It had 1901 and the company name on the blade. I don't mind digging that kind of stuff. So, but at any rate, guys, I'm probably going to wrap it up for today. I did talk to Greg Pompano, or Pompano, whatever. I can never pronounce his last name. The Florida Hunt 6 thing. I'm going to go to that on February 8th, or I'm signed up for it anyways. There's not much more room, guys. So if you live in Florida or whatever, or if you can make a trip, you get in touch with Greg, and you can get on the Florida Hunt 6 group. If you want to make a trip,
sounds like a good hunt.
It's fun.
Pretty good hunt the last time.
Yeah, it's a lot of good camaraderie. A lot of the local hunters, and I didn't realize. When I went to the first one, it was like 125 of us, and I think all of us lived in Central Florida, around Florida area. A lot of good hunters and a lot of good times. We had a blast, and we had a lot of women out there hunting. From Central, I think it's a Central Florida metal detecting group. I can't remember her name now, Christy, or I don't know. She was tearing it up. She found a barber dime and this and that and the other thing. These people know what the heck they're doing. We all had a blast, and we learned a lot. Well, Dwight Collin was there from New Age Goonies, Brian Robinson, Mark Hoover was there, Mike Miller. I mean, just a bunch of us. I think Michael Boyles was there too. No, I think he had to go to. He had reserve training or whatever to go to. But yeah, we had a blast. Oh no, he was there. Michael Boyles was there. He lives down south of me. But yeah, we had a blast, man. It kind of like the DIPA hunt, Craig, the digging in Pennsylvania. A whole lot of people that and seen on YouTube and Facebook. Everybody comes in there. Oh, I know you. It was comical in a way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap it up for today, guys. Have a good day at work. Be careful. If you can get out there hunting, do it. I won't be hunting until this weekend, but I'll try to get those videos up. It's just so time consuming, Craig, to upload them. So I just kind of been leaving them do their thing and walk away.
I don't know why that seems kind of weird. It's taking that long.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I know. I just wanted to throw them up there because I have, probably 4 or 5 more parts. Just pretty much to give you guys an idea what the detector will do, what it sounds like, what I'm hearing. And it seems to come through pretty good on the video. It's a little bit loud at some points, but it is what it is. Hope you learned something from it. Maybe you'll critique me on something I'm doing wrong. Which we all know I do everything right all the time, right, Craig? Yeah. I'm the worst.
Trial and error.
Trial and error. There we go. But anyways, guys, have a good day. We'll talk to you later. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.